It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, a wonderful day for a neighbor. Would you smile? Hi, I'm Carl, and I'd like to share a few things I've learned over the years about painting that hopefully will make it easier, faster, and less messy for you. It's always messy, but maybe we can make it less so. And be sure to stick around for the rest of the video to make sure that you see the game changer. Well, let's get to work. Before I start to paint, I try to take off as many things from the wall as I possibly can. So I'm going to start by taking off this rack. And the reason why I do this is because if I try to paint around it, one, it's going to take me a lot longer, and the other is it's just not going to look as professional. Then I'll take off the outlet covering. I like to put tape over my outlets, so if I accidentally roll over, then I'm good. If I have any nails, I put a piece of wood down so that the wall is indented as I pull the nail out. There are two basic shapes of brushes, the square and the angle. And if I could only buy one brush, it would be the angle because it allows me to get into corners and around edges much more easily than the square does. First, get your brush wet with a little bit of water to make cleaning the brush later much easier. One way that I keep the mess to a minimum is I have a wet and a dry side to the can. The wet side always goes on one side. I prefer the back, so I always know that's what the side I'm going to use. And when I pick up the paintbrush, I don't have paint all over the handle. Make sure your paint is well stirred before you start. Clean your stick. When you're dipping the brush into the paint, you only need a third to a half of the brush with the paint on it. Don't need to go higher than that. When I paint, I have two size roller arms with me. One for the large areas and one for smaller. But notice that I only have one size roller. Remember the hacksaw I showed you before? That's where this comes in. I'll cut one of the rollers in half, and then I use the half for the smaller one. It's less expensive, and I don't have to buy two sizes of rollers to do my painting. Get the roller covered really well. I have drywall that I have to cover before I can paint. Now I just use a drywall primer. This is far less expensive than using paint to put the first coat on. I always start by cutting in on the corners. When you're done painting, make sure you squeeze out extra paint from the brush. Make sure you clean out the grooves of the top of the can so that when you put the lid on, it won't be so hard to get off later. I use a rubber mallet to make sure it gets on nice and tight. Put the extra paint back into the can. And now go clean my brush and my pan for the next use. Time to put the roller away for the night. Wrap it up nice and tight, and that'll save. The primer's dry, it's time to paint. So I gave all night for the paint to dry, and my wife, let's pretend that she wanted an accent color, which she oftentimes does. So of course we all know to put tape up to have a nice clean line between the wall and the ceiling. But do you ever notice that when you pull that tape off, especially on a textured surface, you can tell where there are gaps in that tape? Here's the game changer. With the tape up, make sure it's nice and tight, push along, where, especially if you think there's any gaps. Then take the brush with the paint of the surface that you're trying to protect and fill in those gaps here. Now I'm going to protect B from A. Nice and tight in there. Back and forth so I fill any gaps. Now I'm going to show you something really cool. Let's say that I want this side of the wall to be a different color than this side of the wall. So I've measured 3 feet out from the corner and put a little mark right here, which you can't see, and I don't want you to. Because I want that to be invisible when I'm done. So I'm going to take that mark, make sure that my line is straight up and down, and I'm going to make little marks right here on the wall so that I know where to put the tape. Again, nice and tight, especially on a textured wall. And now I'm going to paint this side right here this color. Alright, the paint is dried. Let's put the accent on. As I put the accent on, I'm making sure that I'm going right over where the tape is, right on the edge. Let's see what it looks like. Well, I hope that was useful to you. Have a good day. And I'll be back when the day is new, and I'll have more